Welcome to the fishing channel where we teach you everything you need to know about angling, and sometimes what not to do. I'm your host, and today we're doing something a little different. Instead of our usual tips for success, we're going to explore the fine art of guaranteed fishing failure. That's right, folks. If you're tired of actually catching fish and want to ensure your cooler stays empty, this episode is for you. We'll cover all the classic mistakes that separate the pros from well, let's call them enthusiastic beginners. So grab your tackle box, settle in, and let's learn how to master the art of coming home fishless. Let's start with timing, because nothing says expert angler like showing up at exactly the wrong moment. If you want to guarantee an empty net, here are some foolproof timing strategies. First up, fish during the hottest part of the day, preferably around noon when the sun is blazing overhead. Fish absolutely love lounging in water that feels like a hot tub, right? Wrong. Most fish actually retreat to deeper, cooler waters during peak heat. They're basically underwater vampires. They prefer the dawn and dusk hours when the water temperature is more comfortable. But wait, there's more. Make sure to plan your fishing trip right after a major weather front passes through. You know, when the barometric pressure has just dropped dramatically and all the fish have essentially gone into hiding mode. Fish are incredibly sensitive to pressure changes, and they often become lethargic or stop feeding entirely when a storm system moves through. And here's a personal favorite: ignore the moon phases completely. Who needs to know that fish are often more active during new and full moons? That's just old fishermen's folklore, surely. Definitely don't bother checking when the moon rises and sets, because that has absolutely nothing to do with fish behavior patterns. And make sure to arrive at your fishing spot right when everyone else does, preferably on a holiday weekend when the entire lake looks like a floating parking lot. Fish love crowds and boat traffic. The more noise and commotion, the better. They're practically social creatures who enjoy the party atmosphere. Now let's talk about location selection, or as I like to call it, how to find the most fishless water possible. Rule number 1, always fish in the most obvious accessible spots. That picnic table right next to the parking lot with the perfect view, that's your goldmine right there. Don't mind the fact that it's been hammered by every angler for the past decade. Surely the fish haven't figured out that this spot spells danger. Here's another winner: completely ignore underwater structure. Who needs to worry about drop-offs, submerged logs, weed beds, or rocky areas? Fish obviously prefer the most barren, featureless bottom possible. That perfectly flat, sandy area with zero cover, that's where the action is. Don't bother with fish finders or depth charts, just wing it. And speaking of ignoring things, definitely skip any research about the specific body of water you're fishing. Why would you want to know what species live there, what they eat, or where they typically hang out? That's cheating. Real anglers just show up and hope for the best. Oh, and here's a pro tip for failure: fish in areas with heavy boat traffic. Nothing attracts fish like the constant rumble of outboard motors and the smell of gasoline. Set up right in the main channel where speedboats are constantly churning up the water. The fish absolutely love the chaos. Finally, make sure you're fishing at the wrong depth. If the fish are suspended at 15 feet, make sure you're fishing at 5 feet or 30 feet. Consistency is key, consistently being in the wrong place. Let's move on to bait and tackle selection, where the possibilities for failure are truly endless. First, let's talk about bait freshness, or rather, the complete lack thereof. That package of worms you bought 3 weeks ago and left in your garage. Perfect. Fish love the aroma of decomposition. The mushier and more pungent your bait becomes, the better. Fresh, lively bait is for amateurs. And while we're on the subject of bait, make sure you're using completely inappropriate choices for your target species. Trying to catch bass, use tiny ice fishing jigs meant for panfish. Going after trout, break out that massive saltwater rig with a hook the size of your thumb. The more mismatched your bait is to your target, the better. Here's another guaranteed failure method. Use the wrong line weight for everything. Going after delicate trout in crystal clear water, definitely use that bright yellow 30-pound test line. It's not like fish have eyes or anything. And when you're after larger species, make sure to use the lightest line possible. 4-pound test should work great for musky fishing. Don't forget about lure maintenance either. Those rusty hooks and tangled trebles. Character building. Why would you want sharp hooks when dull ones work just as well? And that lure you've been using for 3 seasons without changing the split rings. It's practically vintage at this point. Storage is another area where you can really excel at failure. Keep all your tackle in one giant, disorganized mess. Mix your saltwater and freshwater gear together so everything gets that nice patina of corrosion. And definitely don't sort your lures by size or type. The challenge of finding what you need adds excitement to the experience. Now we're getting to the heart of fishing failure technique. This is where you can really shine in all the wrong ways. Let's start with casting. The key here is to make as much noise as possible. That perfect quiet morning on the lake. Time to practice your overhead cast that sounds like you're whipping the water with a tree branch. Fish absolutely love the splash and commotion of poorly executed casts landing right on top of them. And when you do manage to get your line in the water, make sure you're reeling in constantly. Who has time for patience? Reel fishing is all about keeping that lure moving at maximum speed at all times. The concept of dead sticking or letting your bait sit naturally, that's for people who actually want to catch fish. Here's another technique guaranteed to clear the area of fish. Use the wrong retrieve speed for your lures. Got a crankbait designed to be trolled slowly? Reel it in like you're trying to break the sound barrier. Have a topwater lure meant for aggressive, erratic action? Drag it along at the speed of continental drift. Don't forget about hook setting either. The secret here is to either set the hook so hard you launch the fish into orbit, or be so gentle that you basically just suggest to the fish that maybe it might want to stay hooked. There's no middle ground. It's either break your rod or tickle the fish's lip. And speaking of rods, make sure you're using completely inappropriate equipment for the technique. Trying to finesse fish with light jigs. Break out that heavy musky rod. Going after monsters. That ultralight spinning rod should do the trick. The more mismatched your equipment is to your technique, the more authentic your failure will be. Environmental awareness is crucial for fishing success, which is exactly why we're going to ignore it completely. If you want to master the art of fishless fishing, you need to become one with obliviousness. First up, weather patterns. That massive cold front that just moved through, dropping the water temperature by 10 degrees overnight. Perfect fishing weather. Fish love sudden, dramatic changes in their environment. Don't bother waiting for conditions to stabilize. That's what patient, successful anglers do. And speaking of weather, make sure you completely ignore wind direction and speed. That 25 mph wind turning the lake into a washing machine. Ideal conditions for delicate presentations. Set up on the windward shore where you can enjoy maximum wave action and spend most of your time untangling your line from the nearest tree. Water clarity is another factor that's completely overrated. Whether the water is crystal clear or looks like chocolate milk, use the same approach. Why would fish behavior change based on visibility conditions? That bright, flashy lure that works great in murky water, perfect for gin-clear mountain streams. Don't bother learning about seasonal patterns either. Fish behavior throughout the year. Who needs to know about pre-spawn, spawn, post-spawn, summer patterns, fall turnover, or winter slowdowns? Fish are fish, and they act the same way regardless of the season, right? And finally, ignore all the subtle signs that nature provides. Those diving birds working the surface, probably just showing off. Baitfish jumping out of the water, they're probably just exercising. Swirls and boils on the surface. Just the wind playing tricks on your eyes. Well, there you have it, folks, your complete guide to fishing futility. If you've followed all these tips carefully, I can practically guarantee that your next fishing trip will be a spectacular exercise in coming home empty-handed. But here's the thing, now that you know all the ways to fail, you actually know all the ways to succeed. Every mistake we've covered today has a flip side that leads to fishing success. The key is recognizing these patterns and doing the exact opposite. Remember, every expert angler started as a beginner who made all these mistakes and more. The difference between a successful angler and a frustrated one isn't talent, it's persistence, observation, and the willingness to adapt and learn. Until next time, keep your lines wet and your sense of humor intact. Tight lines, everyone.